Hello, I'm standing today. I've decided that I really did not like the lighting in my last video, so standing provides me not only the freedom of daylight, but also freedom of movement, which is pretty fun. My microphone is off to our left here, so hopefully the audio is still pretty okay. I considered using Wally as like a microphone prop thing in this video, but I figured that this would become pretty distracting, so he will remain off to our left alongside the microphone for moral support. I'm prefacing this video by saying that I am, in fact, defending my own interest, my own special interest, if you will, and this is not an outsider's retrospective. Welcome Home is very near and dear to me, but I still have some thoughts about how the whole internet handled Welcome Home about a year ago now. And also some of my own perspectives as somebody who's been engaged in fandom culture since the mid-2010s, including fandoms like Five Nights at Freddy's and Undertale. Since you clicked on this video, I'm already assuming you're familiar with what Welcome Home is, but just in case you're not, Welcome Home is the absolutely wonderful multimedia horror project created by Clown of Clown Illustrations. The story surrounds a fictional lost puppet show from the 1970s, and the mystery surrounding why it was lost in the first place. It's told through updates on a website run by the fictional Welcome Home Restoration Project, giving us new insight into the lives of these puppets with each new website update. Welcome Home has some of the most impeccable storytelling and pacing that I have ever seen from a project, especially in the internet horror sphere, and I implore you to check out the website for yourself if you have not already. I'll leave the links to the website, as well as ways you can support Clown, and the credits page so you can send all of your love to everybody involved in the project. The sudden explosion of Welcome Home's popularity was honestly kind of a first for me in terms of fandom. Yes, shows get popular and swarm the internet for a while, but Welcome Home was different. Everyone knew about it seemingly overnight. If you weren't swept up in the storm of developing it as an interest of your own, you could be sure that your peers on the internet would be fans. The thing I can only assume sparked a majority of this was Nightmine's original Welcome Home analysis video, at this point sitting at a considerable amount of views. I myself even referred curious friends of mine to this video when they asked about Welcome Home, and I think most everybody else was doing the same. As someone who experienced this phenomenon firsthand, I can say that TikTok was a massive factor in this. Side note, I promise I did not mean to make 2 videos talking about TikTok fandom. That's not what this channel's gonna be. I don't know why that happened. Looking back at my 2023 TikTok likes is just a flood of Welcome Home related fan art, edits, theories. It was honestly kind of a magical time to be on that platform. I'll give a personal little tidbit here. I have been around the block when it comes to fandom, especially fandoms surrounding media of this variety. The Bendy series has been my biggest special interest for like 7 years, I think. And I was one of those kids wearing Five Nights at Freddy's Halloween costumes to school in like 4th grade. It's not entirely fair to classify Welcome Home as mascot horror, but it's a piece of horror media involving children's show characters, so it definitely crosses over into the gray area of that genre. Even despite that, a lot of modern mascot horror exists for one real purpose: to sell merchandise. Honestly, I'm thinking about creating an entire video about mascot horror post Five Nights at Freddy's, but we'll see. Sure, we have the ever-recognizable silhouette and design of our main Wally darling, but he's such a genuinely dynamic character, with so much care and consideration put into every aspect of his personality. How he sees the world, how he engages with his friends, and how he engages with even us as the viewer. And the same thing can be said for all the neighbors. I mean, they're wonderfully dynamic characters. Welcome Home is, and was, just so refreshing. So different. In a mascot horror-aligned market so saturated with cheap, uninteresting attempts at making money, Welcome Home stands out as a piece that is just so full of love. It took my own life by storm, and I'm sure thousands of other people can say the same. Now to the actual topic at hand. Why does the Welcome Home fandom seem to have such a reputation now? When Welcome Home first blew up in popularity, Clown, its creator, put out a few very basic guidelines about how he would like his work to be treated. These were all very basic things. Don't try to make money off of his work, be respectful to others in the community, and utilize trigger warnings where they're necessary, considering that this is a horror series. It's all simple courtesy stuff. The one thing that the internet seemed to grab a hold of, though, was Clown's not safe for work policy. See, at the time, they were trying to balance a million factors at once. and temporarily requested that no suggestive content be made of the Welcome Home characters. That was until a few months later when he announced a designated tag for this subject, in order to provide proper filtering for minors or others in the community who simply didn't wish to see that sort of content. People didn't believe that Clown would ever make a retcon to this policy, despite having said he would himself. And a good chunk of people legitimately thought that he had gotten hacked, leading to this very silly post defending their legitimacy. Consequently, the masses seem to completely ignore this update. And I still to this day find TikTok comments talking about the fandom ruthlessly ignoring Clown's boundaries, and how the fanbase somehow ruined a completely active project. I will say, the early fandom was a mess. It was full of children who didn't know how to act in a fandom space, and there was a fair amount of chaos because of that. I don't doubt that this time was extremely stressful for Clown. In terms of the fandom at large, though, I think a lot of people are forgetting that Welcome Home was a lot of people's first fandom experience. Ever. You know, what we were with Five Nights at Freddy's back in the day? At age 9, scrolling through Instagram? Tumblr? Amino? At this age, and I'm sure for people who've engaged in fandom for far longer than I have, it's hard to remember how it feels to be in a fandom space for the first time. You don't come into it understanding all the etiquette because, well, you're 9, and altogether inexperienced with the subject. Besides that, I think the notion that children ruin fandom is problematic at best. Yes, I know some children do damaging things. I'm not talking about them. I am talking about children who try best they can to show the love they have for media, to create fan art or cosplays in any way they have access to, and to engage in a space with others that share that same sort of passion. You know what else is an outlet for creative expression? Alternate universes. Now, I'm gonna have to preface this again. When referring to AUs as a whole, of course I'm not talking about the morally disgusting and problematic ones. That should go without saying. But what, you guys have beef with a swap AU? An opposite AU? Self-insert OCs? Really? This goes back to my point about children joining fandom for the first time. Half of those children are the ones creating the alternate universes, and the other half are the ones calling those alternate universes cringe, because they weren't around for the Onceler fandom days. And if Welcome Home is their first fandom experience, they're not accustomed to the growing pains that every single fandom on Earth goes through. It was almost a perfect storm of sorts. Welcome Home already had an insane and unconventional explosion into the mainstream. Couple that with the amount of children joining the fandom, and well, you get exactly what happened. I always use the Undertale fandom as an example, because arguably, Undertale is one of the media's most known for its AUs. I personally never engaged with the AU side of things, but I never saw the harm in them. So what if somebody wants to play with characters like dolls and put them in their own fun little story? If they're not hurting anybody, what's the problem? You know, I remember when I was in the Undertale fandom circa probably 2016, and I had made this really bad cosplay of Mettaton out of like cardboard. And I posted it on Instagram. I don't have photos, I'm sorry, I wish I did. And someone had commented something along the lines of, "Oh, this is so terrible, you know, this is what's ruining the Undertale fandom." And man, I was 10. But someone else jumped in and said, "Hey, that's clearly a child, why are you making fun of them?" And I remember really appreciating that, and obviously I still remember it all these years later. Because God forbid a child do child things. A vast majority of the criticism I see towards the Welcome Home fandom now pretty much boils down to the fandom was ruined by insert arbitrary thing here. I believe that criticism is very valuable in any fandom space, and it's our responsibility to hold others accountable to keep the community safe, especially for minors. What I don't see as valuable, though, is painting a picture of some horrible, terrible fandom and using it as fear-mongering in other communities. Hence, The Amazing Digital Circus, an animated show produced by Glitch Productions and created by well-known internet figure Gooseworks, with a fun, almost 90s education game-esque aesthetic, and cute characters with a rainbow color palette. You see where I'm going with this? I'll preface this by saying that I actually quite like the Digital Circus. I enjoy its unique aesthetic and its characters, and most of all, I enjoy the copious amount of Raggedy Ann 1977 references, but that's just me. For reference, Welcome Home exploded in popularity in late March of 2023, and the pilot for The Amazing Digital Circus aired in October of 2023, which that was the span of like 7 months tops. Anyway, given their stylistic similarities, the denizens of TikTok started drawing parallels between Welcome Home and The Amazing Digital Circus. It was like one day I opened TikTok and suddenly everyone was up in arms about not letting Digital Circus become like Welcome Home. As if, guys, a really fun website update came out the same day as the Digital Circus pilot, and you all flooded it out of my TikTok feed. I'm still bitter about that. It's like one of my favorite updates to date. It started this bizarre narrative that the Welcome Home community was something to be feared, a notion that a lot of people seem to just blindly agree with. I actually posted a video in autumn of 2023, kind of just reminiscing about the spring Welcome Home fandom. It was partially in response to all the public weirdness about Digital Circus at the time, and what do you know? I got hundreds of comments talking about how tragic it was that Welcome Home was ruined the way it was. And it just... This whole fiasco cultivated this weird, fearful sense of responsibility in the Digital Circus fandom. One that immediately led to shipping wars, arguments about morality, and a constant hatred for anything they deemed cringe. I feel like there's a clear difference between legitimate moral criticisms of a fan base and the weird impossible standards set by fans, that somehow a media can be ruined if enough fans misbehave. What does that even mean? Where do you set the bar of morality for something to be ruined? Who decides that? I don't think a fandom has any liberty to make a call like that. It seemed that everyone in these fandoms, Digital Circus especially, spent more of their time being stressed about the state of their fandom than actually enjoying the media itself. Yes, bad people will always exist. There will always be unsavory parts of a fandom. But the idea that this perfect, morally beautiful fandom can be cultivated through enough policing is not realistic, nor has it ever been. People need to stop treating fandom spaces and their medias as these make-or-break concepts. It's hard to grasp how insanely vast fandom spaces are, or how many things they encompass, or how many people participate in them, for better or for worse. I think the age of the internet has narrowed our perception so drastically. It's hard to imagine just how many people are engaging with the same media as you. Nightmine's Welcome Home video alone has millions of views. Add that on top of the millions of views to the website itself, and you get an insanely vast number. Can you even fathom how many a million is? Young people that are participating in fandom for the first time especially are not used to this. They're not yet accustomed to the experience of nuance on the internet. And because of that, they've created this false narrative for themselves that maybe, just maybe, they can create a perfect fandom online. Welcome Home is much like the media that came before it. It attracted a new generation of people with a new generation of perspectives, and ended up cultivating a confusing community very, very rapidly. The best thing we can do in any fandom space is to simply be respectful. Use your own judgment of morality to make the best decisions that you can, be kind to others, and especially be kind to creators. People seem to spend too much time immersed in negativity in fandom, and I think we would all be a lot happier, and our space is a lot healthier, if we focused on holding people fairly accountable and just being nice. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your opinions on the matter in the comments below, and if you happen to like any of these subjects, consider subscribing, because I'll be back with a video very, very soon. Have a lovely day!